Tony mentioned, I'm CEO of Genasys Technologies. I was also founder of Genasys Technologies. It's very exciting to actually be able to chat to you guys and see how similar the experiences are, and also approaching it from a very different perspective. So Brian comes from the business perspective. I've always been from technology side. And over the last 23 odd years, we've been providing technology to the insurance industry in South Africa, UK, more latterly in further places like America and in New Zealand. So it's really interesting to actually see how similar and how different the different environments actually are. I think one of the things that we've learned is the importance of actually being involved with your customer to actually find, or that they can help guide you and we can help guide them on how to build systems and solutions to support their business. A lot of it is not rocket science, but it does hopefully raise some debate around it. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the insurer of the future, and then a little bit around what risks are facing insurers. I think some of it has already been addressed, but we'll talk about the same kind of thing. Some areas of change that insurers are going to be, should be, or I believe should be addressing. And then just in conclusion, some takeaways, hopefully. Okay, so in our view, the insurer of the future is going to have to diversify their way of selling. That channels are going to diversify. If they were agency-based or they were broker-based, they're now going to have to look at alternative ways for doing it, in addition to those ways. So we've seen a massive rise, certainly in the UK, in the form of aggregators, portals, agency systems, that kind of thing coming up. A lot in the commodity type insurance systems. In South Africa, there's less of that, primarily because I think there's less competition than there is in the United Kingdom. But what we're really finding is that user journeys, that the way that you interact with your client digitally is becoming much more important for him. So we're finding that a lot of our customers are wanting to provide customer or custom user experiences for those, for their clients, and not just a price comparison. It's quite a move towards simplified product offering, not necessarily from the insurer perspective, but certainly from the client perspective. They need to make it easy. They need to make it understandable. The customer doesn't really want to talk insurance talk. They want to talk about their risks and what keeps them awake at night, and that side of things. The complexity actually lies behind the scenes. And I think there was somebody that actually said, well, if I had more time to write, I'm writing you a long letter, but if I had more time, I'd write you a short letter. And one of the things about it is that in order to make a journey or a concept simple to a customer, you need to really put a lot of thought in behind it to actually take away the complexities and provide that to them. I think there's a lot of added value that needs to come into your product. So we've seen some of our clients have done things like insurance, linking the IT devices, so geysers, hooking them up to insurance. So actually making the geyser and the insurance more affordable by hooking up IoT devices that actually monitor. That not only gives them an advantage in terms of being able to add value to their customer, it also reduces their risk. Because they get some kind of forewarning of things that are happening. It's very important. Another customer is also, when COVID hit, within 10 days they went live on a new product to cover for hospital cash on their pandemic shield account. So I think that's important, that as new things happen, as the world changes at an ever increasing rate, so the insurer needs to actually be able to adapt and adjust to it. I think what we found, coming from a technology perspective, is that in the old days, it used to be that you used to go to a single provider who could provide the whole from start to finish, and you went to one package and it just provided your solution, or you built it in-house. what we're seeing is a lot of providers, especially with the InsurTech space, a lot of different providers are actually providing niche solutions, very good niche solutions. And the ability to integrate those niche solutions into providing a business solution is becoming more and more important. So taking the best of breed, mixing them together and actually coming up with a solution, not for the sake of technology, but for the sake of actually adding value to your business. Things like no-code and low-code solutions, accessing that for time to market, to be able to build new websites and new environments, to quote and bind, and to issue new products in next to no time is becoming really important. And as Brian mentioned, the rise of the API, it is such a critical perspective. We started about 4 years ago, moving our entire platform onto an API basis. And it's starting to pay off now as people realize just how important it is to connect these different services into a single comprehensive backend solution. I think a lot of the InsurTechs and things that are happening are geared towards providing front ends and providing customer services or customer solutions, which are really exciting and gee whiz and all of that sort of thing. But the insurers also need to actually improve their back-end processes in order to reduce the costs. There are major issues facing insurers at the moment in the sense of stagnant markets and just the investment environment is not that great. So how else are they going to make profits other than by cutting back on their costs? And automation is a key characteristic of that. On the claim side, I think Brian brought on some of the things that customers are so used to. So you ask any of the sort of first world or what they do, they all bank online, they all bank on their cell phone, they all do that kind of thing. They expect the insurers to be able to have exactly the same thing. They don't want to phone a call center and find out where their claim is, or have to email somebody and have like a 24-hour turnaround to find out what's happening with their claim. They want to be able to track it. They want to be able to register it. They want to see where they are and whether it's being paid and what the status of that is. And I think it's going to go more than that. It's actually going to become proactive tracking, that you tell the client what is happening, where it is, before he has to find out. The whole lemonade thing of being able to settle a claim within 5 seconds or whatever, that's going to become commonplace. It's not going to be the exception. It's going to become the rule. And if you're not able to do that, you're going to fall behind. That obviously brings in certain things like fraud detection and automating that using either AI or big data or trend analysis or whatever, different methods of actually detecting whether there's potential frauds and where it goes to.
Steve, sorry to interrupt you there. I think the last few comments that you made, I think what is really important, which was one of the things when I was still in the corporate environment I really struggled with, is where it's one thing to have the technology and the technology solutions, etc. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the process that you have been using without technology was the right process. And you almost have to reinvent that process before you look at the technology and decide where do you put it. It's like Alan will tell us later, it's one thing to digitize your communication, but it's another thing to first reinvent your communication and then digitize it. Yeah, so very interesting.
I think that there was a saying that says it doesn't make a lot of sense to actually improve the processes that shouldn't have been done in the first place. So you can spend a lot of time trying to refine process, but if you're not supposed to or shouldn't actually be doing that in the first place, you're losing a lot of time. So there's a lot of ways that you can actually replace old processes using technology, not just using technology to speed up an old process. And we're very much in favor of doing that. asking the 5 times why. Why are you doing this? Okay. And then you go and ask again and again, and eventually you come up with the solution of why they're actually doing it, and whether that technology is actually the solution, or whether there's actually another way of actually achieving the same end at a fraction of the price or a fraction of the time. So I 100% agree with you on that side of things. So I think one of the bigger things that is going to come through in the next little while is just how important data is to insurers. You're seeing a lot of the insurers and a lot of the big tech companies they're giving to get. They're asking people, they're giving away free devices or free something or other in order to get information, because that information is a product in its own right. And with that information, they can make better decisions. And I think that's really important. Collecting data for the sake of collecting it doesn't really help anybody. But if you're collecting the information that can actually help you drive your business and support effective decision making, that's really where the thing comes in. Brian mentioned briefly about the people in his thing, and Agile will become a major thing. It's the mentality of Agile, the ability to adapt, not being ad hoc and jumping from one thing to another. That's not what Agile is about. It's about being able to look at something and say, okay, is this actually achieving what we're wanting it to do? And if it's not, then actually being able to cut that and actually adapt to a new process or a new thought without necessarily having to stick to a 5-year plan on something. 5-year plans, I think the change or the speed of change is just too fast to actually say, okay, well, a 5-year plan is going to do this. You can have a big picture, but you need to adapt to change as and when it happens. So, for instance, we've got quite a big ambition to actually go global, and that started off in the UK, but we found that one of our biggest clients is actually in the US. Now, do you just say, no, we're not going to do that? So it's trying to adapt to client and environmental changes quite quickly. I think that's really the pertinence. One of the things that possibly is politically incorrect is that there's a saying that you either change the people or you change the people. So either some people will not be able to adapt to that mindset, in which case maybe they're not belonging in the environment. So we just have to, that is definitely one of the things that might need to be considered. I think in the way of product development, I think that there are so many third-party data providers out there that you can fulfill a lot of the information which is actually coming through without having to ask it each time. And value in supplementing information is seriously a way of actually giving the customer a better experience, letting him experience something in a better way. Also being able to adapt your pricing in real time to circumstances like driving patterns or areas or where they are, or even circumstances that are outside of the driver's control, such as whatever political or economic conditions. COVID is a major thing where we gave a 25%, or we had to overnight give 25%, between 15 and 25% discount on motor premiums because people weren't driving anymore. That kind of adaptability is important to be able to do. I think also that the product has to change from being something which suits the insurer to actually looking at the customer and saying what it is that the customer is actually looking for. So really providing customer-centric solutions as opposed to product solutions. That's something that we believe is quite important for the insurer of the future. This comes not just from our experience, but more from a research program that was undertaken. And they asked all the insurers, or a number of insurers, I think there were something like 3,000 insurers, what are their primary concerns? And one of the big things for them was motor 2. that if you start getting towards self-driving vehicles and the sharing economy vehicles, the thing of coming up with like taxis, shared taxis and Ubers and all that kind of stuff, they're estimating that 60 to 80% reduction in private motor insurance. If you look at the current insurer market, that is a major threat to the insurer market as it is at the moment. The COVID pandemic that happened, overnight, things changed, work from home. I know from my own personal insurance, suddenly I didn't have all risk cover. I didn't need all risk cover because guess what? I stayed at home. So why bother having all risk cover? So there's a lot of changes in your systems, and your thinking needs to be able to adapt to actually do that. There's quite a threat from, I think Brian mentioned it, it's the new entrants into the market as opposed to incumbents. I think it's not just the insurtechs, it's also the big techs. If you think of the information that something like Apple and Google and even the car manufacturers like Tesla and Volvo, they're all storing information, they're all keeping information, and they are going to be able to provide a lot better understanding of their customers than possibly a lot of the insurers actually are. So there's a threat from that perspective. There's also a major threat that a lot of the legacy systems and the data that those systems actually hold are not adequate for them to actually make real-time decisions onto it. There's going to be a move away from damage and repair kind of insurance into liability type insurance, and I think Tony and Brian were talking about how the pandemic has had a major effect on a lot of businesses. But imagine if the same thing happened in a cyber environment and they brought down the internet for 3 months. It would absolutely kill businesses. So yeah, I think there's a whole lot of new risks that we just didn't know about. And then on the side about the people, the time to market, corporate execution, it's the way the teams are structured, often in silos, and a lot of top-down type management is going to need to change in order to accommodate agile mentality. And I'm not sure how many of the insurers are going to manage to take that step, and it's going to impact them, but they're going to have to manage it. It is just one of those things that's going to happen. I spoke briefly about the stagnant markets. I think the risks of cybersecurity and always going to be regulatory changes that are coming through. Okay, so what are the changes that we foresee, or I foresee, in the way that people are going to be, or the areas of change for insurers? One is the work method. We're going to have to learn to be more agile, to take lean methodologies, to continuously improve what we're doing, and trying to evolve from top-down managed teams into self-management teams. We're going to have to become more customer-centric. We're going to need to know what our customer is about and build solutions, not products. So that's probably not going to be the happiest thing for a lot of actuaries, but customers are going to look for solutions. They don't really care about what products you supply. They want to know what the customer is. A lot of the access to market is going to be through digital processing. It's self-help from start to end. So from quote and bind all the way through to claims tracking, claims first notification loss, claims tracking, checking whether they're being paid, all of that. People want to be able to help themselves. They don't really want to have to go through call centers and things. We see that there's quite a big move towards affinity partners, especially in the new startups and things, where they're using affinity partners to gain recognition and to gain market share. So some of the trust that the insurers have built up over the years, a lot of the insurtechs are trying to use the same kind of affinity partners. So either department stores or well-known brands to actually build up that credibility. And a lot more of those partners are going to be looking to sell at the point of sale. So to expand their market, their brands, and what they can actually do through selling insurance as well. The simplified product offering. I think one of the big things is not to use insurance language. I think that a lot of the thing, know your client and fair selling, certainly in the UK, is majorly important. That you don't oversell products, you don't sell to the wrong customer, and you actually make it, you direct your product towards the customer that you're trying to service. IoT and wearables is going to become quite a big, or is already a big opportunity. It's around enabling your customer and actually understanding what the risk is and mitigating the risk through the use of IoT and adding value to that customer, not just from a insurance perspective, but actually adding value in other ways as well. And in the process, hopefully getting some information that you can actually use for future reference. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that the new normal requires us to change what we are doing in the past, and that we're going to have to become customer-centric, have to think about customers first and design solutions around the products. I mean around the customers. If the insurers do not engage with the digital transformation, then expect others to do that. And that's it. Thank you. Any time that you want to have a chat or want to ask anything, you're welcome to do so.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you very much for that. We will take questions and that at the end. So if you have any, please send them through to me on the chat. In the essence of time, I'm just going to introduce Alan quickly. Alan, thank you very much for being with us. Alan is the co-founder and CEO of InfoSlips. Started off in South Africa and now also in a variety of countries. Alan is currently in the States, busy embedding InfoSlips in the US. So Alan, thank you very much for that.
Thanks for that introduction, Tony. Yeah, in the essence of time and being able to get some good Q&A in, I'll try to get through this quite quickly. I think we can all agree that customer experience is one of the key cornerstones of doing successful business these days. And if you look at that quote in the top right-hand corner there from the DXC Insurance survey, which is I like because it's right in the middle of the pandemic and they've got information, but we know that customers' expectations for personalized communication is in higher demand than ever. So interesting thing in playing into what Brian has said and what Steve has said is that, you know, consumers are willing to trade information and they're willing to give you information as long as it gives them value. And that measurable value is sometimes in cheaper premiums, but otherwise just in a better experience. And interestingly also for me, and if you look at these two surveys, and they'll share the links for you in the chat now if you guys want for the Adobe Digital Trends Financial Survey research as well as the DXC Insurance, but and they're very interesting surveys and they have a lot of information and that's useful. But in those reports, 48% admit that their customer experience is not where they like it to be. And I don't think it comes as a surprise, to be honest with you. And it shows that there's a lot of room for improvement. So we know consumers want more frequent, meaningful, and personalized communications. That's not, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody in this industry. The question and the ask is really, how do we evolve? Okay, if we're not going to like completely, you know, change direction, how do we evolve to close the communication gap? And how do we strengthen that relationship with customers? Okay, and you know, I'm just going to start with some observations. I tend to see that there's a lot of investment done in websites, mobile apps, and that type of experience. However, the other side of it is you have this communication that goes out in a heartbeat way, whether it's monthly, annually, quarterly, and the two are like Jekyll and Hyde. You know, the one side, the website works great, it's great to use, easy to use, and on the other side, you get a document that has thousands of fields, or it feels like thousands of fields on it, doesn't work great on a mobile, and you have this disparity with the client kind of engaged in one way when he was signing up, and he gets a different experience when he's inside and he deals with your organization. And the problem is that these traditional forms of communication and statements to sending customers, they waste attention. And if any of you have ever used this on a mobile phone, you know, any kind of document that's more than a page long, that becomes a scroll, Zoom kind of nightmare, it really doesn't become a great way, and it doesn't work the same as the rest of your digital assets with those mobile apps and so forth that you've invented. Now, I always am surprised that people realize they don't have to do that. They're still, with being able to satisfy all the legal requirements, being able to make sure this is in full compliance, you can still deliver a great experience at every stage and something that aligns with all your other digital assets that you have. So the first thing about that statement that you send, because that often is the heartbeat, it's the thing that the customer gets the most often once they're your customer, and unless they're in some kind of event, that's what they're getting on a heartbeat case. And in fact, I'm very surprised that sometimes I hear from insurers that they're scared to send communication because it makes people think about insurance, and those people that think about insurance might change their insurance. And you know, you know, the reality is that people are going to do it anyway, whether you do it or not, and you have an opportunity to engage them and build loyalty and really deliver on the client's expectations. Now, if you deliver the right statement, you'll find that you can deliver a statement that's really clear and easy to use. And in fact, I'm going to show you one just to get an idea of what's possible. And one that's clear, one that's relevant. It's not just a one-size cookie-cutter fits all. It comes back to that personalization. Don't treat me as a number. Don't treat me just as another case. Treat me as a person with needs, and make sure that document and whatever you're communicating to me is relevant to me. And anticipate where I am. Am I a new client? Am I have some kind of claim event? What's happening in my life? And make sure that you anticipate my needs and don't make me the driving factor, because that's going to be a way to lose customers in this space. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change and show you an example of a statement. Now, while I change to that, what I want you to realize is that the document I'm about to show you here is a document. It's behaving like a mobile app on the left-hand side here, because if I'm on a mobile phone, that's the type of experience I want. I don't want to be paging through documents. I don't want to be, you know, trying to pinch and zoom. If I'm on a desktop, like you've got on the right over here, I want a document that gives me, that behaves more like a website. But behind the scenes, what I need is a proper legal statement of record document. So let's take you through quickly through some of the features and capabilities that you can get. And just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to close out the mobile view. And you guys should all be able to see on the screen. Here's a person who's involved in the auto claim. Right up front, we quickly give some information. There's a video there, and I'll show you more about video in a second, but that's not just a generic video that I think it can be a really personalized video. And because of time, I'll show you one in the next slide. And if we go down a little bit over here, well, I can see, you know, where I am. I can see what process we're going through and what the possible outcomes are, etc. there. Okay, so, and that's not just a static diagram, that adapts to that particular individual. We can do things like doing claim checklists. If I get stuck, why must I leave my document, pick up the phone, or write an email, or log onto a website? Well, why can't I straight from my document chat to somebody? So you want to enable that chat. Or maybe I'm not the person who's comfortable with chatting online, but I'd like somebody to call me back, and literally at one click, with the person who get the case that's generated has full context, so the person who calls back knows where I am, what document I am, who I am, and that just really makes for streamlined processing and makes for a new type of engagement with customers. And it's always very useful if I'm talking about claim, why make me go look for my policy? Maybe I just want at one click, I want to view that policy that I have with the organization. So at the end of the day, you know, it's easy for me to find information. If I want to print it out, it's right there at the end of the day. And, you know, and right from the policy as well, I must be able to find all information, everything I've submitted. So I don't want to make a document that's difficult to use. I want to make something that's pertinent to my stage, what I have there, and allow the person to engage with an interactive way. So I'm going to move along from this document, and I'm going to move to a personalized video. Now, a little bit about video while you go. Personalized videos come along a long way. It's really a valuable tool with communicating. People and engage with video on the internet more than anything else. Certain generations prefer it. And a personalized video can highlight certain information. And these days they can be interactive. They don't just have to be something that blurbs out a bunch of information out to you, but it can be something that you can engage with as well. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of a personalized video and show you what's possible. And anybody wants more examples, of these types of documents and videos in different parts of insurance, are happy to contact me.